back to Action Figure Imagery Tour Reviews, everyone. Today we're looking at Masters of the Universe Origins Beastman figure. Beastman still has the same title description as he had in a old school 1980s vintage Master Universe, Savage Henchman. Turn the packaging around. There's the left side of the packaging. If you look closely, you can see Beastman's weapon, his bullwhip, is right behind him in the packaging. There's the back of the packaging. Later on, with the still images, you'll have a closer look at these images on the back. And here's the right side of the packaging. Okay. Now let's have a look at Beastman outside of the packaging. Okay, folks, here's Beastman out of the packaging. Here he is, fully assembled with his bullwhip weapon and his shoulder pads. Very similar indeed to the vintage figure. It's very true to the vintage figure. The head, again, is real solid. Remember, the old vintage Beastman had a soft head. This one's head is hard. No pun intended. Still has the same face arrangements on his face with the war paint. And big difference between this Origins Beastman figure's face and the face of the vintage Beastman is that this Origins figure Beastman mouth is closed, even though you still see his teeth. But remember, the original Beastman figure had an open mouth, so that's one difference. This Beastman figure's mouth is closed, even though you can still see his teeth. I also want to mention majority of the Master Universe Origin figures, like He-Man and Skeletor and Man-at-Arms, have some elements of filmation on them. Man-at-Arms comes with his mustache. He-Man has the pouch on his armor for his sword. He didn't have an vintage style, and Skeletor has his fully assembled all-around purple boots. And you think that Beastman would have some elements of filmation on him, but he doesn't. This Beastman figure is an exact duplicate of the vintage figure. The filmation Beastman, if you can remember, had the red boots. This Origins Beastman does not have any boots at all. He's just like the vintage 80s figure, so he doesn't have any. Unlike He-Man, Skeletor, and Man-at-Arms, Beastman doesn't have any elements of filmation on him. He's just like the original vintage figure. And as for Beastman's articulation, the head, to start with the head, you can move it down. Well, it doesn't move down at all. It doesn't seem like that way. Well, yeah, it does. The armor kind of gets in the way of the lion's mane. It can move up pretty good, and the lion's mane moves with it. Move it outward like that, and elbow swivel, wrist swivel at the wrist, swivel at the elbow. I mean the shoulder blade. Waist swivel. Leg can move outward like that. Move to the side. Has the knee bend back like that much. Foot pivot back that much. And he even has articulation, lower thigh articulation. Okay. There we go. And I'm sorry, I'm holding on his shoulder pads. I knocked his shoulder pad off a little bit. His shoulder pads are made out of somewhat of a rubbery plastic. I think if my memory serves me correctly, the vintage shoulder pads were a little bit harder. The lion's mane armor feels the same. Difference this time, the bullwhip. The bullwhip, to me, it seems like it's a little bit shorter this time. It isn't as long as the vintage. I remember the vintage bullwhip being a little bit longer. This bullwhip seems a little bit shorter this time for Origins line. Okay, now let's have a look at Beastman in the slideshow, the still images. Okay, folks, there's Beastman as he appears in the packaging. And vintage art, vintage look. And there's the right side of the packaging of Beastman. You look closely, if you can see past the flash, you can see the accessories behind him. If you can look past the flash of my camera. There's the left side of the packaging. Now you can see his bullwhip and the accessories right behind him in the packaging. The flash isn't as bright this time. Back of the packaging, as you can notice, if you pay attention, notice that a lot of those creatures right there are mini comic base. That Manticore, for example, that lion type creature, the Manticore. There's, you can see Beastman's accessories again. That's how most figures are packaged, with their accessories behind them in a clear plastic bag, not just Beastman. And there's Beastman next to his master, Skeletor. These two were the main villains in those early mini comics when it was just them two, Skeletor and Beastman. Beastman fully assembled with his bullwhip in his right hand and his shoulder pads. Just like the vintage figure, same accessories. Up close shot of Beastman. And a closer shot of the bullwhip too, along with his accessories. Shoulder pads. Right side profile view of Beastman. See how the handle of the bullwhip handle, how it fits in his right hand. Very nicely. Back view of Beastman. You know, still got the details with the fur. You can pay attention, you can see the fur on his back and arms and legs and head. And there's a left side profile view of Beastman. Good look at the left side view. As you can see, it's barely over 5 inches tall. It's a little over 5 inches tall. He was always one of the shortest figures in the vintage line, and he looks to be the same here. That's my interpretation of Beastman. Remember in the Filmation cartoon where he put his hands on his forehead whenever he uses his animal controlling powers? That's my interpretation of him doing that. And with the articulation these figures have, they can do that now. And there's Beastman attacking He-Man with his bullwhip. I just now noticed I forgot to put He-Man's shield on his fingers on the shield portion. He's not holding his shield properly. That's my interpretation. Now Beastman is attacking He-Man, trying to choke He-Man with his bullwhip, jumping him from behind. And Skeletor and Beastman double teaming He-Man. Beastman attacks from behind. If you remember that old mini comic with Ram Man, Skeletor and Beastman did the same thing. They double teamed He-Man. Skeletor attacked He-Man up front. Beastman jumped him from behind, and they tried to defeat He-Man that way. Then Ram Man came in and saved the day. There's a up close view of the same scene right there. And as you can see, Beastman's bullwhip can also fit nicely into his left hand, just as well as with his right. So it's nice that you can fit his bullwhip in either hand. Beastman next to Evil Lyn right here, comparison shot. And you saw him next to Skeletor, now you see him next to Evil Lyn. And there's a close-up view of the packaging. I'll read the bios. The ferocious Beastman uses mind control to force animals to do Skeletor's evil bidding. And you see those classic characters from the mini comics. There's a zoomed out shot of the same image. Scan image. That's a scan image still. Okay, folks, final thoughts on Beastman. Overall, I am pleased with this figure. I love his accessories. when I was a kid, his bullwhip was always my favorite accessory of his. It still is today. My only gripe about it is it doesn't seem as long as it used to be, but it still looks pretty decent when you display them with it. And all the other features, he's just like a carbon copy of the original vintage 1980s figure, with the exception of the mouth being closed instead of open this time. That's the only major difference I see between this Origins Beastman and the vintage Beastman figure from the 80s. Overall, great figure again. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of this video. That's the end of the review. I hope you all enjoyed this review. And until next time, have a blessed day, and we'll see you in the next video.